Hey, hey. Welcome back. New year, new place. I'm here in Naples, Florida, while I'm away from Los Angeles. The roof on my condo building is getting reconstructed. Lots of construction noise happening, so I'm spending a few months here in Naples, Florida. Great weather here in the winter. So I had my car shipped here with all my SE stuff, so I'm all set to go. Found a nearby park, and we're going to see how this goes. So yeah, feel free to hang out. I know. I will be. I'll only be out here for a few hours until sunset. And I'll have plenty of time. Feel free to join the show here. If you're bored, we can chat about stuff. I have no idea how well this location is going to work out. Am I going to be eaten up by mosquitoes? Hello. Who knows? 'Cause there's a bunch of like ponds or little small lakes a couple 100 feet away from me. It is Florida, but I'm feeling okay. There's like a new feature in StreamYard where you can play like background music. Want to play background music? Lo-fi. Can you hear that? I can't hear that. Can you hear anything? Good. I can't hear that music. You can hear it? Why can't I hear it? Oh, I'm hearing the stream audio from my phone, not from here, and that's using a mix minus, so I hope this is good music. Is it too loud? Let me listen on the stream. But that won't work. I'll just listen. Hang on. Okay. Yeah, I don't want it too loud. Tja. We've never had a proper SE conversation, they're always arms up in full defense mode. That sucks. I want to hear the music. Let me turn it on my phone. Did that do anything? No? Weird. Oh well. Yeah, I do need some topics to put on the board. I have one open space. Oh, people are going on. Hang on. Am I just not getting the audio from my phone? You can hear me, right? There we go. Okay, good. I don't know what's happening. People are here. Alfonso and Annie. I don't want to talk to Alfonso. Who's Annie?
Hi, I'm kind of new.
Hello. Welcome. How did you find this link? Or what's your background with street epistemology?
I only recently left Christianity. I guess it was about a year now, but since then I've just been interested in all this sort of stuff. I came across, I think it was Anthony's channel and then yours, and then I joined the Discord, and that's how I got this link.
Oh, awesome, cool. Oh, you saw the Discord notification for the SE Live?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, welcome. So I'm out here in Naples, Florida, just doing some SE. I don't know how well it will go. It's my first time here, but we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you done any of the practice sessions? There were a bunch yesterday.
I've joined and listened. I did practice a little bit today, but that's about it.
Okay. Ugh. Got a couple people walking up here. See how it goes. Do you have any questions about SE in general? Anything to say about it? Any complaints, concerns?
Nothing I can think of on the top of my head. I haven't had much practice in it, but it does seem interesting, and I've enjoyed all the videos I've watched on it, so.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Will says, that's really, yeah. Will says, how did Annie's practice go? You just listened in.
I did have a practice today with someone about scientific studies. Honestly, I had no idea what they were talking about, but I tried my best. And they said I did good, so I'm just going with that.
All right, great. Scientific studies, anything in particular?
Whether or not they should be peer-reviewed beforehand, or what is it? Pre-registered, and then peer-reviewed before they do the tests. Something like that.
Oh, like peer-reviewed articles should not count unless they're pre-registered?
Yes.
And by pre-register, I assume that means they have their hypothesis and prediction and all the experiment stuff figured out beforehand?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. I'm doing some interviews today if you're interested.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm doing some interviews today if you're interested. Have a YouTube channel, hobby, where I like to chat with people about whatever.
I don't think so.
No worries.
I feel so, like, tranquil
Yeah,
right now, you know?
yeah. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Hello, want to do a podcast? Sure. There's some good foot traffic here. All right, what does Alfonso want to say? Alfonso, you're on. Oh, there's another Alfonso. Alfonso, what's up? Thanks, Nicholas. Oh, the sun. It's getting hot. Ugh. I have shade from like the waist up, but back of my legs are gonna get it. Hello. Hey, Alfonso.
Hi, Reed. There was some issue with my audio.
How's it going? Thanks. Doing some podcasts here, interviews, if you're interested. Maybe after your hike or something.
You're doing a podcast?
Yeah.
About what?
About critical thinking, letting people bring up a topic, and I ask questions to help us think through it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna take a walk.
Sweet. So hey, what's up, Alfonso?
Good. I'm the Alfonso from Clubhouse.
Oh, that Alfonso. Hey, how's it going?
That Alfonso.
Not the other one.
Not the other one. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Yeah.
Great.
You're waiting for someone to...
Yeah, just waiting here in a random park in Naples, Florida.
Oh, Naples. My aunt lives in Naples.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Are you visiting or?
Like an extended vacation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll be going back in March.
Okay.
Those are your kids. I always hear them in the
Yeah.
background, but there they are.
Yeah, they're there.
Jeez.
They're very excited with a cell phone. Oh my God. We had a really nice room last night. Sorry. We had a
Yeah.
really cool room last night with on Clubhouse. It was it was this morning. Oh my God, these guys are loud.
Yeah, they are.
With
Kind of too much.
Jawad.
Maybe we can chat after when you're alone.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Yeah, maybe come back in a minute.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, any more comments or questions, Annie?
Nope, nothing I can think of.
All right, well, if you think of anything, feel free to come back on.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, bye. All right. I am kind of able to. Should I do it now? I mean, we've been starting the poker tournaments, and that usually splits us into different rooms, and I can't really stream both rooms at the same time. But I could stream one, tournament room, table, and then when it switches to the cash game, switch to that. I don't know. I'll set it up and ask the people if they want to or not. Hang on. Hey. Yeah, just one table. Why don't you just join the poker tournament? You can put you on the email list. You don't have to play. You could just spectate if you wanted to. Find me on Twitter and I'll DM you the link to the tournament and you can just watch. That might be the best way. Ow. Hot. I guess I'll leave this music going. I wonder if there might be some utility in having a sign that indicates you're looking for open interviews so that they don't think you're just waiting for someone specific. Yeah, that's true. I could stand up next to the sign, maybe. It does, the sign below it says free and open inquiry below here. I'm free and open for inquiry. And I could probably do better to smile and wave and initiate. I don't even know what music is happening right now. Hope it's good. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I want one of those, like, you know, triangle signs. What are they called? You know? Oh, really? Well, this is StreamYard music. I assume it'll be fine. This is the nighttime writing track. I can't tell what it's called. Hang on. I'll try the daydreaming track. Hopefully that one's good. There's one called Feeding the Ducks. Epidemic sound. Okay. Well, do you want to join to chat about the definition while I wait for someone? I was listening to your conversation with David, and I'm finding a lot of what you're saying persuasive. Dolly is having a medical break. How's it going? Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Podcast?
Yep, doing a podcast. Open for anybody to come up and chat about stuff. Try to keep my views out of it unless people ask, and just help them think through it with some questions.
Let me think about that.
Sure. I'll be here for a few hours.
How's it going?
I just got here maybe 20 minutes ago. It's going well.
Just set up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have a great day.
Yeah, really good. Okay. Hello. Want to do a podcast interview real quick? I'm open.
How quick?
However long you want to go for. You can set the timer.
How long are you going to be here for?
A few hours.
I'm finishing.
Okay.
I want the lady first.
Yeah. Let me DM you, Will. Come on.
Is that the name of your channel?
It is. I have a card there if you want to check it out too.
All right, I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay. I'm streaming on my Clips channel.
Oh, okay.
Hot. There we go. Hey.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, I am unhelpfully listening to the stream in the background, which I have now stopped. Yeah. So you watched some of that that video with Dave.
Yeah.
What did you think? I don't. It's quite a long conversation, which meanders around, but I think a lot of it's quite interesting, if slightly long form. But what parts of my thoughts did you find compelling?
Yeah, I'm interested in restricting it to the collaborative inquiry goal, where that is required in order to count as SE. There's like 3 main goals in the second module of why to do SE. That's related to your interlocutor that we have listed, like merely understanding them, and then a collaborative inquiry goal, which is what I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then the changing minds goal. And even in the changing minds
wow.
one, we say, as it could be used for this, but there is really always a higher priority goal, which is the collaborative inquiry goal. And right now there's language saying it's rarely, like changing minds is rarely the highest priority goal, which would conflict with your definition.
Yeah.
It would say like if it is the highest priority goal, then it doesn't count. Maybe maybe you're also saying if it is a goal at all, even a secondary goal, lower than the collaborative inquiry goal, then it might not count. But I'm wondering about that.
Yeah, I think it's super hard. It's an oft-used criticism against SE that it's a tool to convert people to thinking differently, like a specific viewpoint. It has an agenda. So changing somebody's mind, if that is part of how we define what it's trying to do, we're not going to be able to guard against that accusation, right?
Yeah,
like
I don't really mind that being a goal as long as it's secondary. There's all in that topic in the module we I try to make it clear that we should always be open to change our own minds, and that's the key thing that's related to the collaborative inquiry goal. It's the being open to being wrong. So even if you are have like a secondary goal of changing minds, that should not allow you to be dogmatic. You should always be open to being wrong. Maybe they're right. Maybe we should be more in the middle for both of us. Maybe they're exactly right. They have the best epistemology, and we should change completely. So,
I think if you're encouraging your interlocutor to honestly reflect on their reasons for believing their current position, I firstly think that's certainly sufficient, right? That's a genuinely good win. The conclusions they come to subsequently as a result of that analysis, I think very much should be left with them. And I think if we properly motivate people to think critically about the beliefs that they not just hold but act upon in the world, then I think that they will be better able to come to good conclusions without us necessarily having to do something that will feel like persuasion, and that's a dangerous route to go down, I think, if we're genuinely looking to be represented as a topic agnostic inquiry, purely focusing on the reasons and the quality of those reasons. I think that the moment you say, think you hit, okay, now you're starting to doubt, let me tell you what you should be thinking, that's a real misstep. And I think it's one we should be distancing ourselves from quite significantly. Because, if nothing else, it contravenes a very good rule of which is not to inject truths and not to deliver messages to a certain extent. So I think if we have faith enough that we've really genuinely done a good job of encouraging them to reflect critically and maybe notice some things about their epistemology, I think we can let that do the work that it will do.
Yeah, here's the last paragraph in the change minds topic, which I think is the key issue. It says, in summary, while SE can be used to persuade and wanting to change someone's confidence may often be a goal, it's rarely the highest priority goal. With SE, we use discussions about beliefs as a means to explore the quality of someone's epistemology for the end of helping us all become better critical thinkers. If our general methods of reasoning are good, then the calibration of our confidence level in particular beliefs should take care of themselves.
Right. That's exactly right. It should be a byproduct of thinking more critically about the reasons you hold certain positions, that minds get changed if minds are currently holding on to positions that are not sufficiently justified, right? That's a byproduct. We don't have to change minds. And in fact, it's not our job to change the mind. It's our job to encourage or to encourage somebody to reflect on what they already think, and it's the interlocutor that needs to change the mind. Like that's in essence, that's the power of SE, I think, is that we're not changing anybody's mind. Somebody the other day was talking about people who may hold different values of like epistemic truth, different positions of epistemology. And I was thinking about this, and I think that in the same way that we need to take other people's definitions, we should also take their own epistemology. If they genuinely held like an epistemology that was grounded in something other than empirical truth or empirical, the empirical method, critical thinking or reasoning, if they grounded their epistemology in something else, I don't think that there's much that an honest street epistemologist could do to change their views that they've built on that epistemic position, right? Because without the street epistemologist then saying, no, this is how you need to think about the world differently, right? This is what truth means. This is what you should be saying truth means. I think it's very difficult not to do that without delivering messages. You could then, but what you could do, of course, is you could say, hey, your epistemology, like your worldview, like, is that something you apply in every case? Is it something you apply selectively? Might it be better to have an epistemology that you can use for everything? How strongly do you believe that this epistemology is a good way to found your reasons for knowing? you can still talk about it, but I don't think if they really want to hold on to it, like there's nothing, I don't think, without us saying, no, you're wrong, this is how you should be thinking about the world. There's not many moves we should be making like that, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's one thing to adopt the definition from the interlocutor, but I think you said something like we should also adopt the epistemology of our interlocutor.
I mean, to the extent that we should notice they have a different epistemology potentially, as in not just epistemology in the sense that they believe things that we wouldn't necessarily believe or think were based on sound reasoning, but maybe their definition of truth is something like, utility, which is one I hear quite often. It's true because it's useful, and truth, something that is true if it proves to be useful. I think if that's the interlocutor's position, we should certainly challenge that view and say, is this a useful way of living your life? But I think it's very difficult. Like if they just say, no, that's just how I define truth and that's an end to it. You're in a position then where you're really only going to have to deliver a message and start telling them, no, you're wrong, this is what you need to think, which is not a move I think we should make. It's kind of an extreme case. I don't think many people approach epistemology like this, but I think it's just maybe an interesting example.
Yeah, we're outlining module 8, addressing truth, I think is what it's called right now.
Right.
And that this is all about that. Like, do we want to make correspondence the main theory that we're trying to see claims through, and if they don't see it through that, or don't accept truth in objective terms like that?
Yep.
Is that an issue, or should we just translate the claim to this claim, whatever is true, to this is useful? If they're thinking in terms of pragmatism, that's just a different way of phrasing the claim, I believe, and it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that can be a correspondence claim.
Well, they could be wrong about its usefulness. You could definitely explore the claim in that position, but you could also explore the utility of adopting a view of that sort. Like you could say, look, if non-correspondence is the way you want to go, then what makes you think that that's a good way of interacting with the world? What are your reasons for holding the non-correspondence theory of truth?
Yeah, and then we also clarify with questions like, so if whatever you're believing in was not accurate, would you want to know that?
Right.
And if they say yes, and we make it clear that accurate means corresponding to reality,
mm-hmm.
then then that needs to be, then we're free to go with correspondence. Hello, how's it going?
Accurate's a good word there.
Doing a podcast, was open for interviews if you're interested.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it.
Sure.
Can we see this on 60 Minutes?
Is this the same group that was up in New York City that was on 60 Minutes?
I didn't see that. No.
CBS Sunday Morning?
Weeks ago. It's kind of the same setup.
Oh, really? Do you know what that was called?
I thought it was cordial.
We don't know. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
But it was on 60 Minutes, or?
But it was about the idea of just having folks who wanted to talk to just come before a camera and talk and record.
Okay.
And then they had a booth that was at Grand Central Station. It was very busy. And now they've started branching out into people of a variety of political views who are willing to come together and talk about things and learn that indeed we do have more in common than we do that separates.
Cool.
And I thought that was
I think you pulled up 60 Minutes. You might be able to find.
Yeah, well,
That when we saw you like this, yep, we know what he's doing.
thanks.
how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this since 2016.
Why don't you move places? Move around different-
I'm usually in Los Angeles, but I'm like on extended vacation here
Good for you.
with family. So
Good for you.
Yeah.
Nice blend.
thanks. Yeah, feel free to take my card and look up street epistemology. That's what I'm trying to practice. Thank you.
Maybe you get some good ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
Thanks.
That's interesting. Was there some off-brand read out there?
I don't know. They were saying something on 60 Minutes just did a special on something. I'll have to look that up.
One of the things I think I mentioned before is that there is a danger here with the optics of these street interviews that we are going to look a lot like a lot of other groups that are out there pushing agendas. I noticed there's a strong component of the Jehovah's Witness community that will go out there with sort of very ambiguously worded stands and flyers and things and say, hey, we want to talk to you about your reasons for thinking about things. Similarly, the Catholic Church had a few programs that was trying to approach the youth.
Yeah. And Scientology and Hollywood. For
Oh
sure.
yeah, Scientology. Luckily, we don't see that much in the UK, but yes, I'm sure it's here.
They have like a big billboard, like, "Are you curious?" Or so it's like just very similar. Yeah, it's a good. Anyway. So yeah, correspondence, pragmatism, addressing truth. Yeah,
Right.
I want to collaborate with my interlocutor, not adopt their epistemology, because then what's the point
No.
of talking about it? Like, I
Sure.
might as well not talk about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think also there was also something interesting came up the other day, which was this idea that when if you're a Christian, for example, and you're interacting with the SE community, you're going to be very confident. You're going to be very there's lots of evidence to say you're just talking to a bunch of atheists, and part of the reason for that is that I think somebody who's trying to encourage you to reflect on the reasons you hold your position is going to always be feeling like they're in opposition to that position, right? Like, so if you're exploring a Catholic or a Christian or a Muslim claim, you're going to be seen in opposition to that position, just as a flat earther would say you're a globe earther. And if you were exploring the globe earth claim, you would probably sound like a flat earther to them, which I think is useful. But I also think it's probably worth calling out a little bit more these days. So, we're here to try to explore the views. It's like a critical analysis. It's a critical reflection. It's not just chat. So we're here to try to encourage you to reflect rather than necessarily just agree with you, regardless of your position.
Yeah.
But this becomes much, much, much more difficult if we also start saying we're also trying to change your mind about a few things, because then we have to discuss, well, what are we trying to change people's minds about? And I, like, who is it that's doing that? And yeah,
I do want to change people's minds into having higher quality epistemology, if that counts as changing minds.
yeah, I think it does, and I think that's the right change. Yeah.
Yeah. Not worried about that.
Yeah, but I think that's also the only change, like, because apart from anything else, it becomes very difficult. I personally am, I describe myself as a philosophical skeptic, right? I think certain knowledge is not available to us, and I think that it's a very different thing encouraging somebody to notice that they might be holding a position for bad reasons. It's a very different thing than saying what they should believe, because now you've got responsibility for that being correct, right? And there are better and worse things to believe about the world. Like, there are things that correspond to reality better, and things that correspond worse. But I think it's a very dangerous thing to start saying these are truths we can inject. These are things we're allowed to tell people are just the way it is. If nothing else, it will leave us open to an awful lot of our detractors, criticisms.
Yeah. And also a big part of your claim or criticism is that we should definitely frame the definition, or make it clear that the definition is fundamentally tied to SE as a goal,
An objective,
an objective
the change we're seeking to have. Yeah.
in conversation.
Well, I don't necessarily think conversation is a necessary part. And I think what I'd like to do is try to think about like what is really important. So, for example, if you're looking to encourage people to reflect on their epistemologies, you want them to do this internal reflection, think critically about the reasons why they hold beliefs. That's what's important. Like, did it matter that you had a conversation with the person or use some other method to get them to do that? I don't think it does. I think we can certainly say these conversations are a very effective way of doing it. And I think the conversation and the practice of street epistemology needs to change absolutely not at all for the most part. Like, I think it's refining its methods. And here's the thing: if we set the objective clearly, we can refine and evolve the methodology and the practice in accordance with that goal.
Or create an AI to do it better than any human could. And
Potentially.
then we're done.
But then, okay, so if there was an AI that we could create that would stop us all having conversations, and we wouldn't need to do it, and it would be the most effective way of making this change happen in the world. Firstly, I'm not sure how that would work, but let's imagine it could. Would you rather be teaching people a less effective way of encouraging people to reflect on their reasons because they were doing it as an interpersonal thing, or would you wish to support this AI's development and turn it on and send it out into the world and actually do a sort of en masse global population conversion to being much better rational critical thinkers? I mean, this is the thing. If we're not careful, we are going to protect the practice and sacrifice the ambition.
Yeah, freeze it in time potentially.
Right. And look, not all methods, not all versions of the practice are applicable in all cases. I mean, I think even if there was this magical AI, it's going to mean that it's not going to stop the fact that humans are going to communicate with each other, and that these tools of encouraging people to notice these things are still going to be useful. But I think we would also support that AI's development, right?
Yeah, the AI would still be communicating with humans. It's like we want the humans to have higher quality epistemology.
Right.
Yeah.
I did this. I had a thought experiment which I sort of made deliberately a little bit new agey, and I said if there was a form of meditation that scientifically we could show genuinely had a very high success rate in invoking self-reflection and critical analysis of their epistemology in people. If there was meditative practice that you could undertake that we knew for a fact was able to achieve this goal, would street epistemology be advocating for the adoption of this meditative practice? To be clear, I don't think such a thing exists, but
I mean, sure. But then would that be training yourself to ask questions in your head?
I doubt it doesn't exist, so it's purely thought experiment territory here, but like it just goes against our intuition that in order to achieve the goal we have to apply the standard practice. And again, this just doesn't stop the standard practice being absolutely worth working on, because it is currently the best way of achieving this goal that we've identified. But that doesn't mean it should be held in as the only way we're allowing it to be achieved. Here's an odd example. This was something that came up recently. I think it even might have come up in the Dave conversation, but there was this idea that one of the ideas about it being street epistemology was that it was seen as in opposition to traditional academic epistemology. So if an academic philosopher who studied epistemology had a conversation with somebody that genuinely got them to reflect on their reasons for believing what they believed, would we say that wasn't street epistemology? Are we just saying the moment you get a PhD in this stuff, you're not allowed to practice street epistemology? That you're somehow exempt? Like, it just seems. So I would say that was street epistemology because it achieved the goal. It achieved the objective, which was it encouraged somebody to reflect on their reasons why they believe what they believe.
Yeah.
It's really useful as well, because then you can start saying, well, look, you can make a distinction from somebody trying to do street epistemology and just failing really badly, and somebody who was just not even attempting to use any of the tools and methods, just going at it in a strange way, but actually succeeded in. We could say that even though you did everything wrong, according to our best practice guidelines and our understanding. And
Hello. Just hanging out doing a podcast.
How are you?
Yeah. Open to anybody sitting down to have a chat. Thanks.
Joyce, are you?
It's my first time here.
Oh, it is.
Go around.
I'll look you up. I mean, I'll listen.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
they're nibbling, but nobody's biting.
I know, there's so many potentials. And being in Naples, Florida, there is a different demographic, for sure.
Oh yeah. It looks gorgeous there. The weather looks amazing. I'm genuinely jealous. We had snow yesterday, and it's gotten properly better here.
Yeah, it's like 70 degrees right now. I don't have it. It's like probably 21 degrees.
Yeah,
Celsius. What was that?
That's nice and comfy. So yeah, I think by defining it as a subjective, we could notice things, which is like, for example, you could do it. You could mess up the practice every which way, right? You could do everything wrong. You could be, and still succeed, right? And you'll have succeeded because you did manage somehow to get that critical reflection in. And you could do everything right and still fail. And I think it's useful to notice that, because it might then tell us something about, firstly, the approaches that we might want to learn, but secondly, how I think maybe different people might use different tools more or less effectively. And I think that's useful. So one of the things that I think is unhelpful is this idea that if you've used the tools and you've used them well, then you've done a good job in street epistemology. You've done well. You've certainly done well as a student learning, and you're showing progress and a knowledge. But I don't think you've necessarily done well unless you've actually caused this reflection. Like, I just think that's important, right? It's not a performance art. You know, it's not about how well you stuck the landing and the flourish at the end, right? What matters is that you caused somebody to honestly reflect on their epistemology, right, and their reasons, and I think if you don't do the aporia, and if you don't get that, then you could have played it blinder, but it counted for nothing, sadly, you know. What was you mentioned there were three things, I think, three potential goals. You mentioned that the
understand, collaborative inquiry, and change minds. There's a fourth one, another one, but what is that? It's probably not as important.
So understanding, I think, is a necessary route to encouraging reflection. Like, it's a necessary step. But I don't think. But then we would have to ask the question: if two people came together and we had a conversation, and that you, as the street epistemologist, just walked away with a better understanding of what that other human being in the world thought, is that going to be said to have been achieving street epistemology? Like, I don't know that goal is I think it's a necessary but not sufficient step in achieving street epistemology. And it may be, if you're planning on having more than one conversation with somebody, it may be a necessary first step. But I think it's only useful in that it's actually genuinely pursuing the main goal, which is to to encourage the reflection. As in, it's not enough on its own.
Yeah, there's actually two more. There's maintain relationships jeopardized by disagreement is another goal related to interlocutor, and sharing your views productively. That's another goal.
Sharing your views productively. Again, that sounds like, how can we then say delivering messages is not bad epistemological practice or SE practice if one of the goals might be to share your views? That seems these seem like one thing I've tried to address as much as I can when I've been talking about this recently is that just because I'm saying that some of these things I don't consider to be SE or would not suggest should be considered to be SE doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think that they are not worthwhile, right? These things are worthwhile, and that you can have these ambitions and chase those additional goals, and you can use the tools that you learn within the SE practice to achieve these alternative ambitions. But I think it's unhelpful to call those things street epistemology, because I think that when the moment we do so, we create too broader. I can hear customers approaching.
It's fine. They're walking away.
I fear that we create too broader surface area, I think, for us to be like, at this point, how do we know somebody has failed to do street epistemology? How could you even say if these goals are applicable? Then there's just nowhere you can stand and say that wasn't actually SE. Well, because it's very unlikely you're not going to learn something about your interlocutor. And even if you're delivering, you could be delivering messages all day, and they are going to come away with a better understanding of your position. I just think that as a result, there's nowhere anybody could stand to say that wasn't SE, and that's, I think, a problem, because sometimes it's done so badly we wouldn't want it to represent the approach.
Yeah. Hello. How are you?
What you guys doing?
Just hanging out doing a podcast, letting people come up and chat about stuff.
Got it.
Sure.
Is there a high degree of suspicion here? There's
Probably, yeah. It's my first time here. Probably people are suspicious.
right.
I would be.
It's difficult to know what you could say on a poster that would help people understand without becoming more suspicious, I think.
So our current definition is street epistemology is a way to collaboratively and respectfully explore the quality of the methods a person uses to assign weight to the reasons for thinking that something is true. And it seems like it's a wedding of a goal to some kind of practice.
Yeah, the term way, yeah.
But the goal is intrinsic, that it's in there in the definition. It's not like it's not a goal, it's just a way to meet the goal.
So if you met the goal a different way, would you want that not to be considered street epistemology?
Well, the method, the tools can change, because
Sure.
even in this definition, we're not wedded to the tools with
I
a
gotcha.
way. It's a way. There's nothing about the current tools in that definition. They could completely change and still apply.
Would you consider street epistemology in its current form a singular way?
A singular way?
Yeah, it's a way of doing this, and that would suggest there are other ways, and it would certainly suggest that it is a coherent version of a way of doing this, right? As in, I don't think there is a singular way of approaching it. I definitely see lots of people who I would honestly say are definitely doing SE. I think I see them doing it in very different ways. Different styles and different approaches, right?
I think if I did have to require a certain tool, it would be the Eulenkus, the Socratic method Q&A tool. I think if you're not doing that,
That is definitely one I would recommend. But like, I think, why would you recommend that we need that? So if we were to invoke genuine reflection on their reasons, if we were to create that aporia moment, and it was an honest acquisition, and I baked honesty into my definition on purpose, because I think there are ways you could achieve aporia dishonestly, using things like persuasion or argument or rhetoric. I think if you were to achieve it dishonestly, my view is that you would be poisoning the well sufficiently that in aggregate, street epistemology would become less effective because people would find it disagreeable and would not wish to engage with it. So respectful and honestly are, I think, are necessary parts of you achieving the goal. But I don't think the Socratic method, as much as I totally agree with you, that is the core of the current practice strategy. I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't need to be necessary. Even if it is all day and all night going to be the way we go about it, because it is definitely the right approach for these kinds of conversations. It's not a necessary step.
Okay. Yeah, I would abandon the Socratic method in the Olympus if we found something better. It's about the goal.
And that's it. And I think if we can define it in that way as a specific, this is what street epistemology is seeking to try to achieve. This is the change we want to have. Then we can discuss the ways of getting there. But we could also criticize ways of approaching the problem by not being aligned with that goal. And that's not, again, really important. That's also not to say those other things that people are doing with these tools are not worthwhile. They totally are. But I think it's meaningful. It's necessarily meaningful for SE to be more narrowly defined, so that it can be a more explicit execution than we can think about. So here's an example. How might you change the tools if your goal is different, right? How might you reflect on the efficacy of any given tool? So you might say rapport building is absolutely critical across the board, right? But you could then say maybe confidence checking isn't necessary for me to be able to understand somebody else's position. So do we say confidence checking is not as useful a tool because it's only useful for one of the goals that we might be pursuing, but wouldn't be necessary for us to be able to change somebody's mind necessarily, wouldn't necessarily be there for us to understand somebody else's position. And so we're going to start thinking differently about the tools that we have in our toolkit in relation to these varied goals that we may or may not be having. Somebody was talking about the other day, I think mentioned the idea that you could be changing your goal within the conversation. Makes it even more difficult to know whether you're, is that you're changing the goal, or is that you're not sticking to the method properly?
Yeah, here's an example of changing goals midway. Like, I'm always by default having the collaborative inquiry goal be the number one. And understanding is a prerequisite to get there, so that's always 100%. A secondary goal. But then there's the changing minds goal might enter my mind depending on the claim, but it never goes to the top. It might go to the bottom. It's just an additional goal in the equation, but it's low priority.
I don't even think you need I don't even think you need the understanding as a part of the goal, because it's necessary. Well, actually, you could argue. So I don't know if you heard, but one of the interesting things that Dave did was he a couple of times now he's practiced this blind method, which I really was interested in.
So you can't understand that way.
So you can't understand it. So it's not even 100% necessary
it's not
to understand.
Necessary to understand. That's hilarious.
I mean, Annie was just on a moment ago saying that she was exploring a position around something with regards to science that she wasn't familiar with. Now, I don't necessarily think that would preclude her from being able to be effective in inducing aporia in her interlocutor because she wasn't familiar with the subject matter. And we looked at a video the other day where I think Mark Solomon was talking about the cupping example in the SE review, and that was the first time he'd ever heard of that. I mean, that might have been a bit of a straw man, because obviously a big part of how Mark then had that conversation was to initially build an understanding of what it was, and I. Absolutely 90% of the time that will be the right approach, but it's not 100% sure that that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You might even argue that some of the components of the street epistemology survey are actually effective regardless of whether they know what claim they're exploring.
Yeah. So really, if all we care about is the collaborative inquiry goal, any additional goals could corrupt that goal.
Yep. Unnecessarily.
Like understanding or changing minds, especially changing minds. That is the
changing minds.
But but we need to be honest. We're human beings.
Yep.
If we come across a claim, and we want them to change their minds, just because we're practicing street epistemology with that goal of collaborative inquiry, we're not going to not have that goal of changing minds.
It's totally true. But we could say though that in a conversation, we do in the review sessions. In fact, in the SE review session with Mark, we mentioned a number of times where he was pushing his perspective a little too hard. He was injecting a little bit too much, right? The perspective,
which corrupts the actual goal that we're trying to get to.
Right. And so, I agree with you. I think we are going to do this. I think that's part of being human, but it's also, just because it's impossible to guarantee that we could live up to this ideal, that we wouldn't be doing this, doesn't mean we shouldn't have that ideal. I think it's a necessarily useful ideal. And I think that we should be criticizing SE in SE reviews or discussions with people if we hear they're interjecting and injecting truths, as we do, but also pushing in a specific agenda. Because apart from anything else, we don't know what the street epistemologist's agenda is. We can have street I think one of the credits of the community is when we get people that have divergent views but still want to practice SE as a way of exploring these ideas with other people. So we don't necessarily know what truths people will be using this method to interject, and I think what's really important is that we get the critical thinking component baked in as primary. There's just no other way of guarding against SE becoming a propaganda method.
Yeah, so what you're saying is not meeting up with what's in Module 1, what is street epistemology right now. This next section, let me read this. In order to say that one has successfully conducted SE, these two goals need to be met. Goal 1, explore the quality of the methods used to assess one's reasons. And Goal 2, maintain positive rapport throughout the conversation. Goal 1 is close to what you're saying. Goal 2 is not even in your equation.
I slightly disagree. I think, again, in my definition, I wanted to bake in this idea of respectfully engaging in conversation. Actually, I didn't mention conversation, but I just said respectfully seeks to respectfully encourage is what I think I said in my definition. And I think the respectfulness is necessary. The doing it politely is necessary. Because, as I say, if we don't do that, we poison the well. So I think that's important to bake in.
So I think Goal 2 is part of your definition. The respectful means maintain positive rapport throughout the conversation.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Except for the fact that Goal 2 is now suggesting it has to be a conversation.
Yeah. So I think these two goals are your definition. They just spell it out more.
Yeah. More or less, I think, but as I say, I think it doesn't need to be. I think that whatever method we choose. So, for example, if we built an AI bot to do this as a totally agnostic to the topic SE machine, we would want to make sure that AI bot was polite and engaged in a friendly way, right? Because even if it was really effective without that, we would want it to be that way.
An AI bot could do this. Could meet these two goals.
Right,
and then we could say they have successfully conducted SE.
So another example that came up was the idea of writing some questions on a leaflet, right? And this guy would be handing out these questions on a leaflet, and people would take that home and reflect. I think that is a form of SE if it genuinely induced aporia and genuinely induced the reflection, but it's just not the traditional standard version of it.
But you can't have rapport with a piece of paper.
Well, you can actually. I think you could have a more or less disagreeable way of, wording and framing the topic. If you could say something really egregious at the top, 10 reasons why you're totally wrong about the existence of God, for example, right? You could do it in a less than friendly fashion. You could word them in an egregious way, even if they then induced aporia. I guess
the language in the piece of paper could be insulting to people and make people mad, and that could break rapport, and it could be phrased in ways that increase positive rapport. So maybe
I think it's necessary to the definition that we have the non-objective, which is the thing we wish to avoid. That we will not have success at the cost of making people feel negatively towards the principle of street epistemology, because in general that will poison the well, and we won't be able to continue to do this. People will say, "Oh, SE, that's just what these horrible people use to confuse people, etc., etc." That's not worth having success at the cost of.
Yeah, I think this is exactly what you're talking about, the goals we have. So it really now comes down to, do we define it as these two goals, or basically this goal, or do we call it a way?
I think it's an amalgamation of those two. I don't necessarily say my wording is correct, but I think there's something in the idea that it's a single objective, which necessarily means that it has to be a respectful conversation, or a respectful engagement, I should say, and it has to do the how do you phrase it? Sorry, the inquiry, the conversation, the what's it called?
Collaborative inquiry.
Collaborative inquiry. Yeah. I still think that collaborative case is just sufficient to say that, the piece of paper was collaborating, right? That the person who wrote the questions was in some way collaborating. I added a component of support in there as well, and I guess you could play a little fast and loose, because I think it's not just a case of inducing, it's also helping people think about these things rather than simply inducing these thoughts. But I think much of this is, good to debate, but I think the core idea of it being defined by the subjective, and the subjective being the standard, as it were, by which we then say, we now know why these tools are in the toolbox, right? Because they allow us to meet this objective. Not just other objectives that we like, which is equally valid, but specifically these tools are in the toolbox because they can be used to effectively achieve this objective. And similarly, with regards to the movements and the kind of surrounding sort of component of SE, I think we can say any community which is, good at encouraging people to go out there and achieve this objective is a good SE community, right? And if the community is not doing that and is doing something else, well, then I'm sure it's a fine community and all, but they're not doing that. That's not an SE community. We now have a way of measuring whether something is or is not SE.
Yeah. So the way definition versus the goal or set of goals definition?
I don't think it's a
set of goals.
I really don't think it's a set of goals. I think it should just, I'm really trying so hard to make it one goal, one clear goal that's worded in a way that it makes sure that it gets what we want to have, the change we want to have in the world, but also makes it clear that we won't have it at any cost. So the respectfully component, or doing it in a way that doesn't damage relationships, is necessary, I think. And I think the only other necessary part really is that the other person is honestly reflecting on the reasons why they believe what they believe. And I think honesty is necessary there, because I think you need to make sure that they're not just being confused or tricked into it through rhetoric. We won't have rhetoric. Rhetoric should not be a way of achieving the goal. And if you succeed in inducing aporia through rhetoric, then I think you have to be said to have failed to be doing SE. Because honestly, aporia through rhetoric is a tool that many other positions that we disagree with will be using. The kind of like the the Deepides, as what's his name, Daniel Dennett, would say, those kinds of things are being used all the time, I think, to inject unhelpful narratives. We definitely need to be better than that.
All right, what's your definition again?
let me go look it up. All right.
Can you put it in the DM chat for me and you?
Yeah, sure. And just to be super clear, I'm happy for this wording not to be right. Like, I think it's more the conversation that I'm keen to have. Give me one sec.
Yeah, and Dolly was about to come on, but he says He couldn't
Oh.
get on, but his audio was not working properly. He doesn't want to come on just to say that, he's feeling physically fine and healthy. He's just working through his social anxiety before returning to public view.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's just it flares up sometimes. He says so.
Wish him all the best. I'm genuinely missed Ali. I haven't spoken to him for so long. There is a genuine missingness.
Yeah.
I can't find this. Give me a second. Sorry. Here we go. So this is my current wording. I'll post it into the Discord DM.
Street epistemology seeks to respectfully encourage and support others in honest and critical reflection on the reasons they believe what they believe.
Yep.
How, if you had to say street epistemology is blank, how would you rephrase that?
I wouldn't. I don't think it. I think it is what it seeks to try to do, and I think that's how. So I made the distinction between the movement, the practice, and the objective, and I'm making the case that the general case, when you're saying street epistemology, you're talking about something that seeks to do this. It is.
Can we
It is.
say it's the practice of
ambition.
seeking to? Is this what you're saying, or it is? or
Maybe
is
you
the-
could say that again. That practice is something that I want to make. I want to distinguish it from a practice, a particular way. Again, you know.
You don't want it to
Uh,
be a practice. You want it to be the goal. Can we say street
It is-
epistemology is the objective to respectfully encourage?
That's another way of framing it. I think seeks to is the same as saying objective. I think David from Sound Epistemology said he felt objective might be helpful there as well. So yeah, I think I would be happy with either of those two words in that space.
I see.
I posted the full doc to the channel for conversation.
Goal or objective.
Yeah, goal seeks to objective. It's the change that it wants to have in the world, right? The reason we're doing this is because we want to have a change in the world, and so we want to have this change. So I guess it's a bit like I don't know, Greenpeace wants to increase the change in the world it wants to have is to increase the awareness of the environment and protections against the environment. I think SE is seeking to do this. This is the change it wants to have in the world. There's actually a word-by-word breakdown at the bottom. Where I literally went through why I have every word in there.
I mean, that's great. It is the goal. Like, I'm still clinging to the way. Like, if
So-
let me try to rephrase this.
Sure. I've been doing this enough now to. You familiar with the concept of semantic satiation?
No.
It's the experience of basically staring at some language for long enough that words just cease to have any meaning anymore. They just
I've experienced that.
completely
No,
break down for you.
Yeah.
So again, the way to me suggests that it's a method, and I don't think it's a method or a practice or anything of the sort. I think it's if you say this is a way of meditating, what does that invoke in you? That would suggest that it is a way of meditating. It's not the only way of meditating. There may be other ways of meditating, and those other ways may be better ways of meditating potentially. So I don't think. And here's the other reason why a way is wrong is that if there was another way of achieving this goal, we would still say that other way was street epistemology.
Yeah, so we would have to define what way makes it street epistemology versus other ways.
Exactly, and that's a silly road, because the moment you've managed to achieve this objective, I think we would be happy to say that that was street epistemology or a form therein, even if it was the non-classical form, not the way we tend to practice it, not the recommended approach. You could say all of those things, but you could still say you've achieved the goal and you have performed street epistemology.
Maybe like that.
Is a Socratic way.
Tying it into the tool.
And again, to the extent that you've done that, I think you've needlessly added. I love the Socratic method, and I totally agree with you. It's the, to the extent where, I believe the German SE group have been talking about, because street epistemology doesn't translate. I think they've talked about it being called the Socratic path at some point. I completely understand why the principles of the Socratic method are foundational to the way we currently approach it, but I do not think they are necessary, and therefore I do not think they should be in the definition. I will happily fight all day and all night for them to be in the way we practice it, especially in the current form of the conversational method. It has to be that way.
What if people had the goal of doing this, but didn't want to label it street epistemology?
That's fine. So some people don't believe in God but don't want to label it atheist, right? They want to take a different label. That's fine. Like, it's not a label we have to put on people, but we could also say, based on this definition, that whether they wish to call it so or not, based on our definition, we would call it that, even if they don't wish to adopt that label.
Okay.
I would also question why the seeks to definition, like, to me feels right, because it's what street epistemology is seeking to do. So those people operating under the banner of street epistemology are trying to achieve this goal. I don't know that we would otherwise label a goal by giving it a name like street epistemology. So to me, that's the phraseology that I've become most comfortable with. The parts of that phraseology I'm most unsure about would be the believe what they believe component. But I think functionally that's as close as I could get without using language that I think most people wouldn't be familiar with, or using it in an unfamiliar way.
So if someone just randomly came up here and asked, what are you doing? And I'm saying, I'm practicing street epistemology. And they say, what is that? And I say, street epistemology seeks to respectfully encourage and support others in honest and critical reflection on the reasons they believe what they believe. They could respond with, okay, that's what it seeks to do, but what is it? And then I have this little card here with its current incarnation with the steps, like some steps. Like establish rapport, identify claim, identify and clarify confidence level, identify and clarify main reasons, identify and explore epistemology, and in the conversation. Like, that's the current incarnation of what it is.
Well, I think that's like anything like that. I would agree. I agree with what you're saying. I'm not sure that they. Well, here's the thing: we could test this, right? We can give that definition to some people and see what they say, and see if they go, "Huh? But what is it?" It seeks to do this. Okay, you're trying to achieve this goal. I think that's already more of an open position than many other people that will be sitting out in the open right now, with banners wanting to engage people with conversations, because they're going to be talking all day about like what they're going to do, but they're going to be very coy about their objective. Whereas this, I think, puts our objective front and center, right? So, in an example in the UK, we had these groups of Catholics that would go out and sit down and and say that they wanted to talk to you, and we do an interview with you and we discuss your positions, and then we'll talk about some problems that you might be having in your life, and they'll talk about their method all day, but what they won't say is what the objective of that conversation actually is, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which is manipulative.
Well, absolutely. And in this way, what we're saying is, this is what we want to try to do. This is what we're trying to do. This is why I'm here. This is how we might go about it. If they want to know more information, like, you can talk then about your specific approach, right? Which might be slightly different to somebody else's approach. And also might change over time, like I'm sure it would do.
Yeah. I'm still hung up on the Seeks to. What is it? It's a goal to do this. Okay.
I hear you. I do hear you. I do. I think it's. I'm up for it. I'm up for discussing alternatives. I'm definitely up for hearing. The language is tricky. As I said in the interview with Dave, it's especially tricky, I think, in this community because we are swimming in very pedantic waters. People just love to take words apart and challenge them and explore their meanings. And I don't think that's a bad thing. What I do worry is that it can sometimes lead to phraseology that is not common parlance, common usage that essentially might make people unsure. Like, in our attempt to be very, very honest, we might come across as dishonest because we're using language in a strange and unfamiliar way.
So if I said I'm a street epistemologist, with this definition, it would mean I am someone who seeks to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly that. Hi, I'm a street epistemologist. I seek to respectfully encourage and support others in honest, critical reflection on the reasons why they believe what they believe. That's what I think you do.
Yeah.
And therefore, street epistemologists do that. And I think that that's what street epistemology is about. I do understand what you're saying about street epistemology seeks to do something as if it's an entity in and of itself. But maybe that's the change that we need to make. Maybe we don't talk about street epistemology in the abstract. We say street epistemologists seek to do this. Maybe that's better phraseology.
They seek to do it because they're trying to practice street epistemology, which is a goal?
Well, they seek to do it, and that's why they are street epistemologists. It's because they seek to do this that's what makes them a street epistemologist. A street epistemologist is a person who seeks to respectfully encourage and support others in honest and critical reflection on the reasons why they believe what they believe. I mean, I would just be happy with that all day if I saw that in a dictionary. Like, I'd be like, yep, that's pretty much it. Like, I can't imagine somebody calling themselves a street epistemologist and disagreeing with that goal.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I can, because I've spoken to an awful lot of people that have wildly varying definitions of what this is. But I would, yeah, this is the one I would support.
Cool. Yeah. We are almost done reviewing Module 1, and I think maybe we'll have you on, Anthony, Ram, and I, to talk
Sure.
about the definition before we start it in the public review process. Like, you're obviously will be a part of that, so we might as well do that before,
Yeah, I'd love
because
to.
I think, there's this persuasion. So,
I do understand why I think the definition has gone the way it has. I think I kind of respect an awful lot of the intention behind it. I just think it's become unhelpful. I think it's had good reasons for moving in this direction.
Hey.
Oh,
how's it going?
Sorry.
No worries.
Do
Anyway.
you usually do it at this location all the time?
It's my first time here. I might be here Sundays.
Sunday? Do you do any other places?
Do you recommend any place?
Maybe downtown in the park. Andrew?
Okay. In that park. Yeah, I think I've been there. That's a good one.
Because it's public, so you can still do it.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Thanks.
See you around, man.
See ya.
Oh, that was a
There's
good
another
question
park
to ask.
downtown. I think I'll go there next time.
Oh, that was a good question to ask. That was a good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, I do understand how I think the definition has gotten where it has gotten, and I think it's gotten so with good intentions and all. But I do think it has become unhelpful. And I think also one of the places where I've noticed this is in conversation with opponents of street epistemology, or certainly critics of street epistemology. It's very difficult, I think, to say. Like I was saying earlier, given the definition currently, it would be very difficult to say when somebody isn't doing SE. And some of the critics of SE, are saying, well, every time I seem to want to criticize somebody who I think is doing SE, I'm being told that that's not SE, and that's not a good example of it. And it's like, well, how do I know that? How can that's a really fair criticism, I think.
Yeah, which I think, in Module 1, our 2 goals would have been basically your definition. And we're saying if you don't meet those 2, then it doesn't count as a successful SE interaction.
Yeah. Well, that would certainly be better than the current 4 goals that we discussed, because those give an awful lot of latitude for a conversation to be labeled SE, and I think most people would. Well, I don't know. Again, I definitely wouldn't recognize it as such.
Yeah, so there's like the primary goal, or you split it up 2 primary goals of SE,
No.
and then there's potential secondary goals.
I think there is a singular goal, and I think that the other component, the understanding the other person's position, is a necessary. Is a useful but not necessary step. As in, I can't imagine you could do it without it, but if you could, sure, go for it. As long as you're honestly doing it and you're doing it respectfully. If you didn't understand the position, then that's super interesting, and I want to hear about that. But in any case, I wouldn't say that wasn't SE, right? I think understanding is absolutely vital, and I think it totally needs to be, how we get to build a better understanding of our interlocutor's position. I think is definitely something we need to build into the practice, because that's critical, but it's not part of the objective, I would say.
I'm going to add to our goal 1, rather than explore the quality of the methods used to assess one's reasons, I'm going to say honestly explore, because I like that.
Well, I think the honesty needs to come in the induced reflection. I think you can. I don't know how you could dishonestly explore somebody else's position, but you could certainly dishonestly induce reflection in them. As I say, a deeper D will do that all day, right? You'll go, that sounds interesting, and it's like it's just a logical fallacy or a bit of fallacious reasoning that that's phrased in a way that sounds convincing. It's the old nothing is better than what is it, like nothing is better than a cheese sandwich. Oh, a cheese sandwich is better than nothing, and nothing is better than a cheese sandwich. Therefore, I forgot the phraseology of it, but there's a version of it with sun or something. Do we think about that? But yeah, the old nonsense.
I think the writers of Model 1 and the SMEs are very close to what you are doing, and I think we can hash this out very quickly.
That'd be cool, man.
So we'll probably I'll set that up soon, next week maybe.
Yeah, I'm definitely up for it. I think it's it's been a little bugbear of mine for a little while, and I think I've been thinking about it and asking different people about what they think SE is, and it's been really interesting to hear the differing views on that.
Yeah, you should see how it started, Module 1. Like, we have converged on this. It took a long time to get, and I think we're both converging. We're all converging here. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's how you know you're onto something.
Hello. Alright, I'm gonna try to get somebody here.
I gotcha. Yeah, good luck.
Can you
What
still
time
hear
is
the
it?
music?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
It's
you balance it
4:45.
right.
Sunset's at 6 something. So maybe another hour or so.
Gotcha.
This might be a complete bust, but I'll try the next the other park downtown next time. That is the happening spot in Naples.
Do you get many complete busts?
Sometimes at the ending locations, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to know what to. Do you have any signage around that that's sort of off camera? I think somebody mentioned once that you might have done.
Yeah, I've got. Let me show. Can I do this?
Oh, there we go.
Got this.
Oh wow,
And it's got my topics board.
that's awesome.
There's the parking lot, and this is like the funnel for the
Yeah.
trail. There's another trail that way, but people walk over here sometimes. The bathrooms are right there. And then I've got my son. So
Yeah.
I think I'm in the best spot at this location, so
Are people reading the board, the topics board?
yeah, they are.
Mm.
So anyway,
Yeah. It would be interesting to understand why one place might be better than another.
yeah.
I know John has been going out from Quality Questions. I was talking to him about, he spends a lot of time at this lake and just on the main trail of it, and he's just all day he's just getting people just walking past him, just
Not engaging.
not engaging, and I think he's had some good interviews. He's had some good conversations. I think he's definitely getting going with it, but I don't know if it's like, would you recommend, like, is it about establishing your spot? Is it about sort of just being known for being there long enough? Is that a key part of it?
Yeah, like when I was at UCLA, first off, like the first few weeks, maybe a month, I didn't get much, but now people know I'm there and they come up more regularly. I even had one guy who was like waiting for me, just to finish setting up. So starting
Wow,
to
that's cool.
get more engagement. So yeah, it's part about consistency and, have at least some foot traffic.
Do you find you get much of a crowd sometimes? Do you get people? I've seen some of the videos where you have a few people
Sometimes,
watching.
yeah. If people are in a group, they might just hang out.
Right. Like that doesn't seem easy. If people are
No.
watching, like there's a real interesting thing which I think we mentioned before recently, with this idea that it's good SE is not necessarily a spectator sport. Like it,
Mhm.
to do it well, like to go through somebody's claim methodically and carefully and give them space to think and talk, and can be incredibly tedious for people to listen to, I think. But that doesn't make it bad SE, but maybe it makes for a bad, visual.
Yeah, it's hard to hear unless you have headphones on anyway. And especially if we have headphones on, then we're not talking loud,
Yeah.
and people can't hear it all nearby. But I have one extra pair of headphones.
Right.
Getting dog walkers now, lots of dogs.
I'd imagine that was a group that's willing to talk, but maybe you won't stick around for long.
Oh,
Do you have any advice on spotting a viable candidate?
someone who doesn't have their headphones in, who's by themselves, walking slowly.
Interestingly, this is the same checklist as a serial killer. You realize this?
Yeah, I'll try the other park next time. Might go Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, I think it's. I've definitely had a few people going out there and clipboard in hand, trying to do it, and just can't work out how you guys, the Jedi mind trick that people like yourself and Anthony are somehow able to pull off in the public space. But I think I do worry that there's a tendency towards a survivorship bias, right? Like you only see the videos mostly that
I know.
where there's
People
a
don't
conversation.
watch this thing. I rarely do this, where I'm just sitting out here for hours. You never see this part.
This is going to be a great 2-hour YouTube video. That's
Yeah, you don't see the hours I've been, like, the percentage of time I'm talking with someone versus the time I'm out here is
Right.
probably like no more than 40%, probably 30%, if that.
You find it's hard to keep your concentration when you've been sat there for like an hour or so and waiting, and then somebody comes, and then you find you're not right in that mental frame of mind. Is that sometimes tricky?
Yeah, like ideally I warm up with someone,
Hmm.
and that one's just not good at all, and then it gets better. Like my conversation with Tia, that was probably my 20th talk of the day, like in the
Right.
spot I was at VidCon, and I was just on a roll. It was automatic.
Is there a danger of having too many talks like in a day? Like
Yeah,
you get
probably. Yeah, you just become. It's not about the person. It's just doing it rote again and again.
right. That man is riding a hairdryer to work, it seems. Yeah, I definitely. We talked about with Mark Solomon again. You know, he in his a fantastic conference that he got to talk to people at.
That's such a good idea. That type of
It's
thing.
so good, so good. And also, I guess there's an eagerness component to it as well. You know, which is we talked about with Anthony and the Mormon video. There's just an enthusiasm for the fray, as it were.
Yeah, it's a great place to find people because they're there. They're obviously into it if they're going to a conference.
Oh God, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. There was a component to which I felt like the lady that Mark talked to, who we were talking about in the SE review, she so felt solidarity with this group of people. So I think she was in some way there for the solidarity, not to have her have her views explored. Yeah.
Yeah. I am wearing headphones too. I try to look at people, take off at least one headphone. Should probably just take it off completely when people walk by.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's I should do that. Then it's like I'm talking with someone. You're bothering me if I'm doing this, but if I take this off completely, I might just be listening to something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it does look like you're on a radio, doing a radio thing, and like your guest has just walked away. And
Yeah, I'm just waiting for something. To get here.
yeah.
Does the feed look okay? It looks.
Yeah, he
good
looks
on
great.
my end.
Yeah, everything's fine.
I got
Maybe
really good signal here.
maybe have a little sign that says, "If this chair's empty, come join me." Right, like that's.
I know. It says free and open below, but it could be better. I need one of those triangle
Yeah.
signs. It's on my list to make someday. Here's two people. I'm going to take off my headphones for a second.
Go for it.
Hello. Interested in an interview? Okay. Nope.
Perfectly valid answer.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But what if I'm talking with someone? Like, please interrupt the person I'm talking to.
Well, that's why I like the "if this chair is empty, come join me."
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the sign, right? That's the. Oh man, I was hoping for you. You gave it the best winning smile. It was.
Here's someone else. No, they're walking away. I think they're going to the other trail. There's like a lake trail and then a conservatory trail, a bunch of woods.
I guess you want to avoid like larger groups as well, right? You don't want 3s and 4s or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think somebody was talking the other day about the idea of engaging with on university campuses, because obviously that's an interesting place to go. But like can you speak to anything about like how you get to visit those places? And
I just show up.
oh right, that was right. Yes. So I think Anthony's gotten permission from the one that he used to visit quite often, right? He went through the
Yeah.
went through the ringer with that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you've never had any problem just sort of arriving and saying hi?
I have not had a problem yet at UCLA. No.
Awesome.
But it is public, and there's one specific part on campus I go to, which I just kind of blend into everyone else tabling.
What's the most negative experience you've had whilst doing this? Is there anything that springs to mind? Any particular horror story?
I have it on my SE playlist. It's where I did a live stream out across from the Pantages Theater, and a guy sat down and I talked with him about is Antifa a terrorist organization? I think. And then we got on to kids in cages and stuff. And yeah, it was very heated and confrontational.
Right.
And that's probably the most negative part. People have sat down and just flipped me off before, and then got up. That happened one random time. I'm like, okay.
So I think a lot of people that want to go out there and do this, like that feel inspired to do that, I think that's what they're worried about. They're worried about this like cacophony of horrific like interactions. But like the number of times you've done this, like that seems like not well, firstly, that doesn't seem so bad in any case, and
never felt like I'm in physical danger. So
yeah,
it's been fine. Sun's almost below the trees.
Yeah, it looks like it's cooling down real quick.
Yeah, still 70 degrees.
Oh wow, god damn. I remember once having an interaction with a chat. I used to talk to people in taxis quite often because I find that was even before I knew of SE, that was to me a little opportunity to talk to a complete stranger, and providing you're polite and respectful and you give them ample opportunity to tell you to shut up and be quiet if that's what they would prefer. Like I used to find taxi journeys quite good places to have interesting conversations with people. Because it was time boxed and temporal and temporary, like people were very open, which was always really fun when they felt the freedom to say what they wanted to say without any fear of repercussions. And most of the time I had fantastic conversations and used to judge it as being good if I got a handshake at the end of it. They would ask to shake my hand at the end of it as opposed to me offering. Like that was a real win.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I used to really enjoy that. But once I was in a car with a... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Nope. Okay, go ahead.
I'm feeling for you, buddy. It's hard work out there. I once was I was having a journey with a Muslim gentleman, and as I often have, and had really interesting conversations about their views on their religion. And we were talking about the nature of like the reasons for believing in it, he came up with something I'd heard quite often, which is, without this religion, I would not be a good person. And I hear that a lot, that they genuinely, honestly believe that this religion is the reason why they're good people, and you hear it from Christians quite often as well. Without this, I would suddenly become a monstrous, horrible fornicator, a miserable drunk, a wretch, in fact, I was commenting the other day about how these Christians seem to have such a fantastically lively lifestyle before they suddenly convert. It seems that they're all fornicators and alcoholics before they find Jesus. But in this case, this gentleman was talking to me about this. He said, I wouldn't be a good person if, yes, exactly right. if it wasn't for this religion. And there was just something about the way he said it that genuinely made me uncomfortable, that made me feel that on this occasion maybe it might have been true. It was such an odd thing to experience, where I suddenly realized maybe I shouldn't press this too much further.
No, when you hear something like that, you can be even more comfortable about it, because it's just the way they're making sense of morality. So it's like, what you're really asking them is like, without morality, would there be no morality? And I'd say, of course.
Yes.
And therefore, they wouldn't do good. But
that's slightly a genetic fallacy. Like with it, my moral view of virtues, which I considered to be important, came after I became religious. Therefore, they were there because of religion, which isn't necessary.
People aren't moral because of the ideas they hold. Really.
No.
It might be part of it, but it's just, they can revise it. But human beings have certain evolutionary traits that they're born with, and they can be revised over time, enculturated with certain virtues. But we're not going to just lose that if we use another framework to make sense of those things.
Well, maybe. Is it possible, though, that there is a person who wishes to do disagreeable things in society, as people do? Like, there are people that act poorly in society and maybe do terribly egregious things in the world. Is it possible that somebody like that is only not doing those things because they fear God?
Potentially.
And that was on this one occasion, because it's normally a position I'm happy to challenge. On this one occasion, I very much got the impression that that was the case.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was this sort of genuinely. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. It was quite late at night, and dark roads that we were going down and all that good stuff. Just something about the way he said it. And again, it may well have just been entirely in my own head, but on this occasion, I just felt that. And it's an interesting possibility. Well, I would say it's possibly. It's possibly even likely that there are people in this world that are actually would be doing bad things were it not for the fact that they feared repercussions from something like a deity. And that's not something we could replace just by the repercussions of the state, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a good reason to believe it to be true, but certainly an interesting reflection.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna try for one more hour. We'll see how it goes.
You got you.
I'm gonna walk around. Feel free to talk with Luke.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, doing? You good?
I'm good. I just got hijacked by Luke. What's up?
Hijacked.
What's this? What's this?
What? Oh, because he's gonna walk around and see if people want to join in and talk with him. That's
we just exited stage left and stage right comes Luke. How are you, sir? Are you well?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, not too bad. Somebody was asking me if we'd continued our conversations recently, and I had to lament the fact that I hadn't. But people have been asking me about it.
Which conversation? I had so many.
Oh, I know you have. No, we were. I think we were talking about your position on the something from nothing conversation that we had. We were going around
the prime mover argument. Yeah,
the prime mover argument. That's right.
Yeah. I love that one. It's one of the main reasons why I'm a theist.
Right. Yeah, that's why I was interested in it. I thought that was interesting, and it was a position we could both agree on, right? That we both, at some point in our lives, sort of were confronted by this slightly alarming question.
Yeah. It's like the logical part in it. It's this thing that makes it whole. Like the logic that follows. You know, everything that I know of has a beginning. Therefore, there must be something that has no beginning that began everything. if you want to stop the wheel turning, if we want to have an end result to the question, why am I here, and why is there something instead of nothing? So this thing that was presented to me, I'm like, well, I didn't need it until I encountered it. Like, I didn't need it to kind of feel like there is a God, but this thing made it how do you call that? Logical. It made it more mine.
Wow. Yeah. You say that. So I've been thinking about this, and in my view, what the universe is either infinite, which makes no sense to me, right? An entirely infinite world is just unimaginable to my human brain.
Correct. We cannot.
Or it's finite, and therefore it had a beginning, which is equally unintelligible to my brain, right? The fact that there was somehow not even nothing, and then something started it all somehow, doesn't make any sense. That something from the or Luke, there is a third option, which is something else, and that also doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
So I can't even imagine what is that else? What is that?
That's correct.
So there are three potential options. One of them must be true. None of them make any sense to me at all. And I'm super happy to say that on this point, I have no bloody idea what the answer is.
I don't understand. I have trouble with those people who say, I don't understand why is there something out of nothing when you can yourself create something that is close to out of nothing, a book, a picture, any kind of art is something out of nothing. I air quotes nothing. You understand that it is still something. There is paint and there are brushes and canvas, and it is something. But the thing that you create is, it's out of nowhere. Basically, nobody told you should draw.
I've heard many people object to Lawrence Krauss's book, A Universe from Nothing, where he defines nothing as a sort of melting pot of possibilities, a sort of bubbling space of things popping into existence, and people say that's not nothing, right? Their main objection to his, they say, oh, that's not nothing.
That's everything.
But Lou, your version of nothing is even less than nothing, even less nothing than Lawrence Krauss's nothing.
Well, yeah. The thing is, when you have a book that tells you how to draw.
Oh, yeah.
So it's teaching you to draw a square. You have to go left and then down and then anyway, yeah. Anyway, it tells you how to draw a square, and this is something that you create, the square, out of something. The book that you followed.
Right.
You have this kind of thing. Did you find someone? Read.
He's frozen.
No, not yet. No.
No. Okay. They run away when you approach them. They're like, "No, I don't want this guy anymore. Are we gonna save for the internet?"
I think you need to lean into the existing live stream tropes of hot tubs. I think hot tub epistemology is the way to go.
Oh,
I think
wow.
That's it.
Definitely. The people will watch more.
Finest bathing.
If you get bikini ladies in the hot tub, you will get a lot of viewers.
That's what we need. We need the classic booth babe. That's what we need.
Oh yeah, like for cars and stuff like that. you might get someone like, "Do you want to come in?" And then she'll be pointing the culture curiosity share in the thing.
What wonderfully dangerous territory in when swimming in.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're perfectly fine. You're sexy. You're sexy.
Brilliant, because up until now he's just not been getting people engaging with his desire to have a conversation. Now they're rejecting him on a sexual nature. That's the failure.
By the way, you changed. Did you lose weight? For real? Oh.
I have been working out, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I saw a video of you with a. Anyway, I thought it was you younger, and somebody said, "No, that's how Ray looks like today." I'm like, "What? I don't recognize him anymore. It's not the Ray I know of." And
Which
yeah,
picture?
anyway.
Was that on the
It-
beach or something?
no, you were interviewing a girl on campus, I guess. She was a student. She was theological student. Theology. She was studying theology. She was a student in theology, and you were talking with her about God and her beliefs.
I mean, I have been doing this for 6 years, so I have aged a bit. I don't know what video that's from.
We now have empirical evidence that you are the original Benjamin Button. I think this is you're definitely aging backwards. It's going to be great.
It's gonna be amazing. Yeah. Anyway, so out of nothing thing I was talking about when we come in, is something that I like. You know that it is something that you use the book, the knowledge that you receive from the book, and the instruction that you followed.
Sure.
You created the square following the instructions. Therefore, it's not out of nothing. When compared to the square that you create without the need of a book or instructions, which is a creation that do exist using things that do exist, but it's out of nothing. It's air quotes, nothing. It's less things than the one that were used in the books. That's what I mean by nothing. You need less things to create this square.
So it's, your contention would be that something that's born from imagination is slightly closer to ex nihilo than.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think
that's a good way to say it. I like your way.
Is it genuinely created from nothing, or is it just created from something that you can't see?
Correct. That's a good option. It doesn't matter because what we need is the difference between two things that are created. One is closer to nothing than the other one, and once you have one step closer, you can interpolate to the end of the line. But the full thing, the more description for how to draw the square, like more things would be the square will have to be 5 centimeters long. Is more things than a square to a square. Like the instructions can be more, or you can have less instructions, and then you reduce the things that has been added, and then you have the nothingness.
So if I was following instructions from a book and drew a square, I would be following a book, but you would suggest that it's more from nothing if I use my imagination.
Correct.
But the reason you're saying that, though, is that you can't see my imagination. You can't see the processes that are occurring, whereas you could see them in the book.
Also, because you chose to follow instructions instead of choosing to follow your instinct or
right. But my instincts, where do my instincts come from? Right, and they're not coming from nothing. Right, they're coming from a set of learned experiences, behaviors, mood, intuitions.
Less things. It's not nothing. It's less things.
I don't know. It sounds like more things than just a book, right? Would it? But in any case, it's certainly. It seems like it seems like the distinction is that in the one case you can see the book that I'm using to draw with, and in the case of my imagination, you can't see the thing that I'm using to base my creation on, right? So it feels like it's from nothing in the sense that it's just hidden, not that it's actually from something that's not there.
Yeah. So in English, at least. Here's my question.
2020 has a question.
Yeah.
So here's my question. How does the street epistemologist reconcile confronting people with SE with its inherently high potential for failure due to our psychology? And it gave a bunch of backstory on that. Yeah, I think SE, by the way it has evolved over time, is the set of tools that best takes into account our psychology and our bias. It's keyed into taking that into account, which is why it's so focused on not telling people things, merely questioning most of the time, and keeping a positive rapport. And yeah.
I'd also question if it has the high potential for failure. What is your framing for failure there? What is your
Yeah.
standard
Goal.
for failure?
The goal, yeah. What is the purpose of the confrontation? If it's to change the mind of the person, that's not a sin in my eyes, at least. So
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree. But yeah, that's another
I think
place
this is
where
their goal. You know, one approach I've used where is trying to get to the person to come to realize why their idea, I believe, is bullshit.
Oh,
there's your problem.
There's your definition,
that's
right?
the goal. Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah. That may be an outcome, but you want to respectfully inquire together in an honest way about whatever.
Want
And
to
you don't want
understand
this to be
why
the
the
goal.
person knows what she knows or thinks she knows what she knows. Even if you disagree with the idea, you want to understand why are you so sure about this thing I disagree with. It is really it's funny.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And people don't tend to want to believe things that are wrong. Like they certainly feel like they do when you're in an argument with them. They feel like they're stubbornly, willfully just ignoring the reality that we seem to be living in together. But everybody thinks they're right, and there's a often used quote that being right feels a lot like, sorry, being wrong feels a lot like being right. And I think recognizing that the person you're arguing with is not, doesn't see it as bullshit fundamentally. Then you've got to figure out, I guess, how is it they've arrived at this position, right? And you can't. I don't think you can explore that as easily while simultaneously denying it as well, right? It's if you're denying what they're trying to say all the way down, then you're just fighting and struggling. And I think it's useful, necessarily the case when you're trying to understand somebody else's position to let them, genuinely explore it with them rather than be challenging it.
It's amazing. It's a good feeling when you, at least I have this good feeling when I understand where this person is coming from, and I'm like, oh, that's why. That is why she or he is having this belief is something that I don't have. This is going on. My dog is, I think, is having a trouble. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it can be a little bit dangerous that though to be so confident. I framed it like that for efficiency of text. I'm quite accommodating in real life. That's quite cool. But yeah, I think it's definitely assuming, being charitable in your interpretations and like initially just taking the time, I think, to explore. Love to know why. Obviously, bullshit is obvious.
Which is interesting because I think SE works even more powerfully if you can really put yourself in the mindset that, oh, I might be wrong about this obviously thing that I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a fun way to like play a game where you assume they're right and you're wrong. They're the teacher, you're the learner, and you play in that mindset and you conduct SE like that. It's like playing a game, and you're just seeking to get to the place where they say something that is going to make you realize you're wrong. Like you can put yourself in that mindset, and it works really well.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting your interlocutor. Well, I'm not sure how this is where it maybe comes into conflict potentially with like the definitions of SE that we were talking about earlier. But like there's maybe not. There's definitely a way of doing this where you're basically asking them to persuade you that it's right. Like, okay, you have to honestly accept the idea that you might be wrong, and you have to listen attentively to their reasons why they hold the position, and ask the questions that occur to you to ask, right? And in doing that, you're helping them potentially notice these things. Here we go. He's on. He's got eye contact. We've got a lock. No, no. Oh, got away.
No.
Hmm. Yeah. Fake news. False alarm. I'm back.
False alarm. Welcome back. Yeah, no, I think that that's an interesting way of exploring positions, for sure. Because in some ways, I think you're essentially allowing them to run their ideas through your mental models, your machinery, your life experience. And I think in doing so, your reactions to their reasoning is useful for them to think about. But it's only useful if they can follow you.
Hi, how you going?
Here we go.
Oh, there you go.
I've just been chatting with some friends online. I haven't had anybody sit down with me yet.
Oh, he's playing the sympathy card. Oh, look at that face.
Going well. It's going well. Look at
He's leaning
I-
into it.
Want to do that?
Oh, it worked.
Okay. The enforcement's the biggest problem. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But if you're take your mask down or whatever and
Just under your
Under your-
nose. a lot of
and they'll
people.
say, oh, put it back on, but they don't, and it's a federal offense. No one enforces it. So
Yeah.
why the disparity between smoking on a plane and wearing a mask?
They're both federal enforceable things.
Simple.
Okay.
That's my concern.
That's your concern. Can I talk about that for a few minutes?
I could, sure.
Okay.
Sweet. I also have a pair of headphones if you want to listen in.
Oh, okay.
Make sure this is working.
If that sounds
Check, check.
Yeah. I think this is what.
All sounding good here.
Check, check.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. So hello, welcome.
Hi.
How was your hike?
wonderful. It's a beautiful park.
Yeah. Got some binoculars there. Did you see any like wildlife or anything?
We saw some mohingas and the little birds, but we haven't identified those as yet.
The
Herons.
bahingas or what?
They're a bird that they don't have oil on their wings to repel the water, so they have to, after a while, they have to dry out their wings, and they sort of
Oh,
put 'em
those,
up.
I've seen those things. They
Yeah,
like dry
they're
out
really
themselves
beautiful.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw some heron and some egret, so
Awesome.
Alligator,
alligator.
Alligator.
The little one.
A little one.
turtles, lots of turtles.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Can I get your first name?
Jan.
Jan, gotcha. My name is Reed. Nice to
Reed.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So yeah, what I do here is like to chat with people about whatever they like to talk about. Try to practice this way of having conversations called street epistemology, as the goal of helping people think, reflect on what they believe and why. And yeah, I like to do that, and people can bring up any topic. And you said you wanted to talk about.
I wanted to talk about the disparity in the enforcement of wearing a mask on an airplane as opposed to smoking on an airplane.
Gotcha.
And it seems like the enforcement for smoking is severe, but for not wearing your mask properly is almost non-existent.
And they're both for federal.
Yeah, it's a federal crime.
Federal crime both ways.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Do you mind if I record? Is that cool?
That's fine.
Thank you. And want to wear headphones? You've got a pair there. It's a little easier to hear.
Oh,
Check,
yeah.
check.
Okay.
Yeah, great. All right, so yeah, I think the claim is something like all federal crimes on airplanes should be enforced equally,
Yes.
and examples of two crimes are smoking and wearing a mask improperly.
Correct.
Improperly. All right. Okay.
Because I think they have to have a mask to get on the plane, but then they pull it down
Mhm.
or all the way to the chin.
Okay. Yeah. I guess another maybe tangential question is, should wearing a mask on an airplane be enforced at all?
Well, I think so, unless
If it's
I think that if they would mandate vaccines, if you in order to get on a plane, you have to have been vaccinated and have proof of it, or the negative COVID test. Then maybe the mask wouldn't be as important, but it is very important.
If there was a vaccine mandate or a negative test mandate
Yeah.
to get on the plane, maybe masks wouldn't be needed to be mandated.
Well,
I'd wear my mask.
yeah, I wear mine too.
You wear it anyway.
Yeah, but for some, to people that wear their masks religiously on the airplane and don't play the game of, I'm going to have my drink. Well, you get on the plane and you get a drink and you nurse it for 2.5 hours, keeping your mask off. Well, that's affecting me and a lot of other flyers, passengers.
Yeah. What should be the policy regarding COVID and airplanes at this point?
Well, you definitely should have a mask on, and I don't think that the airline should serve any beverages if because people take their masks off, so that sort of, I don't know,
Yeah.
takes away.
Yeah, so if we should have masks on, we shouldn't be taking them off for just drinking beverages and eating and
Right,
stuff.
because you can play the game, order a drink, order food, and
Use it as an excuse to take it off.
right, and nurse your
You could bring it on.
nurse your drinks or whatever for 2 hours or 3
Just,
hours.
just sip, sip, sip.
Yeah, and people
I'm
do
drinking.
it. Yeah,
Uh-huh. All right. Yeah, so want to talk about this claim that masks should be required on airplanes for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe the first question is, what would need to happen in order for masks, if it would be okay not to require masks on airplanes? What would need to be true?
I think if everybody would get vaccinated,
If everyone's vaccinated?
yep, and boosted,
Okay.
because there's, I don't know what percentage of the people that are dying of Omicron right now are people that are non-vaccinated.
Okay.
And that,
90-some
Yeah,
percent,
yeah.
Susie said.
yeah. So,
Okay. How about this question?
sure,
If we couldn't mandate vaccines,
okay.
but we could still mandate masks on airplanes, what would we need to find out to think it's okay, even without vaccine mandates or negative test mandates, to think, it's probably fine not to have to mandate masks on planes? What kind of information would be needed?
It's listen to the science. Listen to this, like the CDC, and I don't know, read John Hopkins' newsletter. And there's people that have a lot of experience and no conspiracy theories or anything like that, just the facts. And you can look at the statistics of people, the areas where they mask and some areas where they really don't mask at all.
And there's a discrepancy in like hospitalizations due to masks, more masks, less hospitalization, less deaths.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay.
I would say.
And that would apply in airplane situations too.
Right. I mean, yeah.
So we'd have to find some kind of like data where the masks did not help with hospitalizations and deaths and cases.
Well,
That's just what we would need to find
Yeah.
to know.
yeah, more, research, but I think that it should be mandated for masks on airplanes. I
Okay.
really do, because it's not fair to everybody else. Like, if you do mask and you are vaccinated, and then the people that just forget it, they don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to fly on an airplane. That's how, it's a privilege.
Privilege, not a right. People don't have the right to
No, it's,
fly on private businesses, airplanes.
well, if you have an executive plane,
Yeah.
that's, I guess they make their rules, because their impact is all only on those few people, that person that owns the plane or, charters it out.
Yeah. All right.
I'm talking about a commercial.
Commercial with other people in public.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that was my,
Sweet. All right. Thanks, Jenny. Any other questions about that we could discuss? Are you all good with that?
I'm all good with that.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll
Thank you.
hope to see you again. See
Okay,
you around.
we'll listen to you.
Thank you.
And good luck to you. When are
Yeah.
you on When are you on? Or just
I'm on YouTube and
Oh,
Twitch. I have a card there. If you want
Oh,
to check
I
it
have
out.
one in my
Okay.
pocket.
Oh, you have one.
I'll
all right.
grab one.
Yeah, here, we'll pass it on.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah. How
Thanks.
did you get into this?
A few years back, been following some people online on YouTube, and
Uh-huh.
I liked what they were doing, and I wanted to help
Yeah.
doing it as well.
Oh, cool.
Good.
I like different opinions of
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
you. You too.
Take care.
See you again. You're gonna be here.
I might be here or maybe the downtown park.
Yeah. You get many people talking to you?
No, not really.
No.
So that's fine. This is my first time here. I'm just trying out different places.
Yeah. It's a beautiful. Have you walked it yet?
I walked a little bit just to scope it out. It looked nice.
Walk the
It is.
boardwalk.
Yeah.
Is that a better way?
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean,
Okay.
that's more for birding. You're not going to see the birds.
Alligators. I'll see you over
You
there.
won't see alligators like there.
Okay.
So, good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye, Reed.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, your phone
Glass.
and your glasses, yeah.
I do that.
Oh, and feel free to take a puzzle piece if you'd like. One of those squishy stress ball puzzle pieces if you want, just to remind yourself
Take a piece.
about it. Yeah,
Thanks.
any color.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. That's the most important part.
I thought one of the most interesting questions there was, do you get many people talking to you? just generally in
Not
life,
really,
is
no.
that why you're out here?
That's funny.
That was short and sweet.
Yeah, I liked it too. You took. I think if you were to summarize the sources of her belief is the post that she read, scientific post.
Yeah, she certainly seemed to have good reasons for believing what she believed. I thought it was interesting that you changed the topic from the one she initially proposed.
Yeah, I try to focus on something that, tangential to the topic, but that's most interesting to me.
Mm.
Like, the original topic was, masks should be enforced just the same as smoking.
Yeah,
on airplanes.
Equal punishment for federal crimes.
Yeah.
Which I thought was probably one that had less epistemological bedrock to stand on, really. Like, are all crimes punished equally? Is there a reason why we might be more punishing of some crimes over others? That might have been an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah. Should the punishment fit the crime, and are there different punishments for different crimes?
Right.
And is not following a mask mandate on the airplane a equal level of crime as smoking on an airplane?
But
Could ask that.
the interesting thing there is that, like, I would suggest it's of certainly of equal importance, but I think you can't accidentally smoke a cigarette on an airplane. Like, that's a very deliberate act that you're doing. It's a very well established law. Whereas I think you could accidentally remove your mask to eat or something, or do something where you're not supposed to remove it. Like, you're not quite yet sure of the areas of the law, and therefore does punishment really affect a change that is useful?
Yeah. And, I tried to recheck in there to see if they were willing to keep going, and it seemed like they wanted to wrap it up. So
Yeah.
I did not successfully do SE there, I don't think. Like, getting them to reflect.
Yeah. It's certainly more difficult if you agree with their position as well.
Why is there more to scratch? What do you think he's missing? What kind of information you didn't get from the conversation you had with them?
What kind of information did I not get?
Yeah. Like, if you were to scratch, what would you want to know that you don't already know?
There's a lot of assumptions in there that I'd like to probe, like which I tried to breach. It was like, at this point, should there be mask mandates? That's an assumption in the reason that, or the claim. So
The answer is yes.
Well, but I don't think that's exploring the epistemology, though, is it? I mean, there was some good epistemology stuff in there about, what would it require for me to change my position on this, and is there another way we could achieve it, and how do we know that it's effective, for example? But there, she certainly seemed to point to some awareness of the science on the subject. Did you get the impression that she wasn't ready? She wasn't aware of the nature of the conversation sufficiently? Like, she wanted to sort of sit down and just explain her position, but she wasn't perhaps ready to explore it?
I don't know. Like, I would have a very low confidence that at this point we should have mask mandates in airplanes.
Yeah,
Vaccines are freely available, and you're free to wear them if you want. No one's stopping you. But to mandate
right
at this point having to wear a mask, if you want, like, you don't have. I don't think it's necessary. So
it's interesting. I think there's. I mean, I've struggled myself with this a little bit, like trying to understand how careful we should be. One of the things that occurs to me is that even if survivability has gone up dramatically, which of course it has, and even if the number of cases is going down in the States, which it certainly hasn't been doing in the UK, or not nearly as much as we'd like. One thing that occurs to me is every time somebody else gets it, so with every case, there's a chance for an increasingly unfavorable mutation to occur. Like every time it transfers from one, well, not just transfers, but every time the virus divides, right, there's an opportunity for a more egregious mutation to occur. So it's not just a case of making it survivable, but ideally you would want to stop it from existing. We would really rather it just didn't continue to evolve, which is what it will be doing with every mutation, with every opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Which is kind of one of the reasons why I personally would wear a mask in public still, even though in the UK we've dropped the requirement, except in certain specific circumstances, because I think the cost benefit there it's a difficult one to calculate.
Yeah, so, you don't know how your country will react to, because you're only one person. That's the thing.
Right, yeah.
So you don't know how much weight will have this action. Oh, you don't have God too, so it's harder.
Well, according to you, I would, regardless of whether I believed in him or not, presumably. Does God not care about me? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, he does. So if you had God, you would have the answer to the question, should I wear or not my mask?
What is the answer? What does God say?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Oh, okay.
So it's for you. It's not for me. Like, it's case to case basis. Again, the good and the bad.
It's not yet Catholic dogma. Has the Pope made a claim about the vaccinations and mask wearing?
Follow the science.
Follow the science.
Yeah, that's a claim. That's a position, official position for the Vatican. Follow the science.
Follow the science.
Listen to your leaders. Follow the science.
So we used to follow the church because God said so. Now we follow science because the Pope says so. Sounds like progress of a kind.
It's the main reason why he said that is because the pain and suffering and distances and wars that can go against or cause because of this virus. So there are deaths involved, and since there is death involved, this is where the devil is the most active. When death is involved, that's where he is the strongest, because, well, people do not like to lose their closest friends. So they will fight those who are killing their friends, kind of thing. So yeah.
As always, Luke, you open up the possibility of quite a lengthy and wide-ranging conversation, which I think
Of
might
course.
somewhat take over Reed's stream. But yes, that would be interesting to explore sometime.
It is interesting.
Oh. Show a bit of thigh, lad.
I
Come
know
on.
what the difference is. He's not wearing his.
He needs a lower cut top and just a little bit of thigh, just to tempt them in. He's just not got the banter down.
Show her his biceps.
That's it.
Show more pecs.
Slightly more on one hip, just give it sort of a coy look in his eye. Oh no, that's no good.
No, she's already far away. That's why he's.
I can feel the bugs coming out.
Excellent.
The sun's going down.
A treat.
I have dinner soon. I'm gonna wrap up.
Sounds like a good idea. Been a pleasure, Reed, and Luke. As always, a pleasure.
Yeah, good to have you.
See y'all later.
Take care. Bye bye.
Cool. Alright, wasn't a complete bust. Hey. How's it going? Hi. It's a hot YouTube. Yeah, sure. It's a podcast, my podcast hobby I'm doing. If you're interested, I have time. Nope, guess not. Nope, not interested. Anyway. Yeah, I'm done anyway. So I'll try another park, maybe Wednesday or next Sunday. In the meantime, poker tonight. Send me a DM somewhere, and I'll get you on the list. It's a nice place here. I think I'll find a better spot downtown. See ya.